But the thing is, ever since Israel's foundation, its various intelligence agencies, Mossad in particular, and its Directorate of Military Intelligence have been brilliant. And they've had agents deep inside every Arab government, every Arab military organization.
Sir, we've got to break there. We've got to break. I apologize. I'm not going to cut you off for a single second when we get back, and we'll run through all of this. The King David Hotel bombing, the Lavon affair, on and on and on. Israel admits in Haaretz and Jerusalem Post they have fake al-Qaeda groups that stage events every time there's about to be a peace deal. So we'll come back and continue where you just left off. We're very honored to have our guest with us, Alan Hart, today. We'll be right back.
I was a highwayman along the coach.
Alan Hart is an author, former Middle East chief correspondent for Independent Television News, former BBC Panorama presenter, and the list goes on and on. Started out his beat during the Vietnam War over there. Okay, this is a short segment. You got cut off by the break. Please start back over with the information you were covering concerning 9/11.
Right, to pick up where we were, Alex, it's not impossible, and this is my speculation, it's not impossible that it started out as an all-Muslim plot. But even if it did, it would have been very quickly taken over by Israeli agents. I mean, one of the great truths of history is that from almost the moment of Israel's birth, Israeli agents, either Mossad or the Directors of Military Intelligence, penetrated every Arab government, every Arab military organization, every Arab terrorist group, whether they were terrorists or not. And if we time later on, ask me to tell you this particular story, the penetration of the Abu Nidal group. But for now, let us say, even if it started out as an all-Muslim plot, Israeli agents inside would have got to know about it. And my guess is that they would have said to the bad guys in the CIA and their associates, Zionist associates and other neocon associates, hey, this plot is running. What do we do with it? And the answer would have been, we'll use it. Because we know in the background that Paul Wolfowitz had already spoken in his paper, The Clean Break, about the need for a Pearl Harbor event, right?
Yes, the PNAC documents.
That's right. So the Zionists and the neocons, they were looking for a Pearl Harbor event to give them the pretext to go to war, not only in Iraq to get rid of Saddam Hussein, but the Clean Break document that the Zionists in America wrote for incoming Prime Minister Netanyahu in his first term talked about the need not only to get rid of Saddam Hussein, but to roll back Syria and eventually go for Iran.
Which we now see happening. I want to continue fleshing this out from your experience and reporting for decades from the Middle East and interviewing Yasser Arafat and just countless other people. And as you said earlier, the founder of the modern state of Israel, I believe you were saying you consider to be a friend. That is so interesting. I want to discuss that, and it must be painful to have to talk about this and go over this because the truth is painful. I'm only looking for the truth. And a lot of the people that constantly attack Israel, in my experience, make stuff up. They hyperventilate. It's a religion of hating Israel. They lie about me. They lie about others, so I don't have any respect for them. But somebody like you, who does have a great track record and who I have researched, that's why you're here on the show, and that's why we're talking about this. And I do believe at certain levels Israel was involved in 9/11. We know that there were hijackers that were living in homes paid for by Israeli intelligence. We know Fox News even reported that hundreds of Israeli spies were arrested in and around 9/11. I've interviewed the sheriff who picked up the dancing Israelis, who it later turned out were Mossad. And we do know the moving company was a Mossad front. We do know they were videotaping it. We know Silverstein is tied in to all these groups. But then you've got separately Cheney in there in control of a stand-down. We know we have a stand-down order from 2 months before.
Yeah, I call Cheney the real Dr. Strangelove, incidentally.
Well, then I mean, speak to that, because I'm always worried about anything that says it's one group or another group, when you point out rightly that let me take Adam Gadon, the grandson of the ADL former head, up there putting up fake Al-Qaeda videos. The CIA admits they're putting out fake bin Laden videos now in the Washington Post. I mean, that is clearly a Israeli production with Adam Gadon to menace and scare the American people. So I'm all about, exposing things. I've just found the British stage terror, the U.S. stage terror, and so I want to speak about that because, you're saying Israel found out about it and then said, hey, this is going on, let's piggyback or piggyback on it. But for me, it's more than just piggybacking. These governments at every level were involved shepherding the operation.
But, Alex, there are so many other things. I mean, look, for goodness sake, there has been a complete cover-up in this country, authorized by President Johnson, of Israel's attack on the Liberty during the 1967 war.
Absolutely.
We don't actually know who killed Kennedy. Now, in my view, Oswald didn't fire a shot.
Oh, the evidence is overwhelming.
America has an incredible tradition at leadership level in suppressing the truth. And the question you have to ask, surely, is in whose interest is it that American citizens, the voters, be denied the truth about so much?
So for you, it's all motive. You believe you're saying Israel had the most in the motive. Well, let's come back and talk about that.
No, Alex, with respect, I'm not.
Okay, right. Stay there, then. We'll get your answer on the other side. Once they sell you on the lie of killing Kennedy in broad daylight, with hundreds of witnesses seeing the men behind the fence shooting, once you buy into that lie, now you're committed to buy into even more lies, like 9/11, or WMDs in Iraq, or the White House memo, where Bush is telling Blair, we can get a U.S. aircraft shot down and blame it on Saddam. We can stage events. We're premeditatedly lying about WMDs. That's a form of false flag. The Gulf of Tonkin now declassified, getting us into Vietnam, was staged. Over 1 million Vietnamese, 58,000 Americans, 200,000 maimed. We're going back to our guest here in a moment. Don't forget to support this radio broadcast and to get materials that will wake the public up to what we're facing. The public is awakening right now, but they need the hardcore info. Like Police State, The Rise of FEMA, my newest documentary, proving the total police state grid that's being set up in the U.S. Everybody needs to see this. My 15 years of research condensed into this film. Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined by Jason Burmis, just came out last month. Breaking down the globalists, their mindset, how they use terror, how they use narcotics trafficking to control things. Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic, that I'm featured in and consulted on. Michael Bagnerick, Richard Mack, Charles Key, R.J. Harris, and many others. Taking back states' rights, taking back local sovereignty. The Republic versus the democracy. All in Don't Tread on Me, available at Infowars.com. And you can also call toll-free to get the films, 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. Now, going back to our guest, Alan Hart, again, author, former chief correspondent for independent television and BBC, expert on the Middle East. You got cut off. You were trying to clarify something that I was speaking about, dealing with stage terror and 9/11. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I wasn't quite saying that only Israel and Zionists had motivation, because the network is Israel, there's Zionist supporters here, but the whole of the neocons, who are, some are Zionists, some are not. Some are plain old-fashioned Americans like Dick Cheney. But also there is this alliance with the Christian fundamentalists, the so-called Christian Zionists. Now, I think, frankly, and I think I've never said this before publicly, I think that what that alliance actually wants is a clash of civilizations, Judeo-Christian be Islamic. I think that's what they would really like to provoke.
And that's why they let him build a giant mosque on the ruins of 9/11. That's why it turned out it was an intel op doing the Muhammad cartoons with him with a bomb on his head. Well, they say they want a clash of civilizations in the PNAC documents.
Yeah, but Alex, you just used a word which I'd like to pick up on, a phrase, police state. Now, you know we had a prime minister called Edward Heath.
Yes.
Not too long ago. Soon after he left office, my wife and I had lunch with him. And I said, Mr. Heath, What is your biggest fear for the future? Remember, this is a British Prime Minister. I thought he would talk about global poverty because he had been involved with it, as I had, but he didn't. He said that Britain will become the first police state in the so-called democratic world. Now, this is a guy who's been Prime Minister, who knows how the system works. And he's telling me that he fears Britain will become the first police state. No doubt you've read, Alex, George Orwell's 1984, yeah?
Yes, that's what he envisioned coming to fruition in England if things weren't reversed.
Well, I go further, Alex. I think the Western world is on that road and well on it. You see, I don't think democracy exists anywhere in the world because for it to exist, citizens, voters, have to be informed enough about issues to participate in debate and to be able to call...
No, I agree. It's manufactured consent.